they can't say it was all bears, but then they said there's been up there, I guess, a lot of people going hiking and stuff like that in the summertime, and they would find eaten remains of some of those people that went out hiking. Now, some of it, like he said, was bears, but then some of it, he said, that some of the authorities around in the area were saying they can't believe it was a bear. They really thought, Bigfoot. But till you actually see one or capture one, I mean, it's really hard to sit there and say, hey, that was a Bigfoot.
Right. Yeah, where I am, we have bears, mountain lions, coyotes, just about anything you can imagine out in the woods. So, we always, hopefully most people anyway, are very careful and pay attention when they go out.
Well, one thing that person at that little store told us, he says, don't use bear spray. And I go, why? He goes, actually, most of the time, if you run across a bear and you got a can of bear spray and you spray it on the bear, it's just going to make the bear all the more angry. And so, I mean, I don't know. Myself, I feel more safe. I got 2 acres of cedar trees on my property, but I'm the only one in the area left with any trees. And I'm happy because I know I don't got any Bigfoot. I don't have it. Well, I had bear when I first moved here 20 years ago. Don't even have bear. I hardly ever see a deer anymore. So I feel pretty safe.
I live on 35 acres, mostly wooded, and I'm surrounded by farms. So I'm I'm in prime Bigfoot area.
Well, how about stories in the area? Is there any good stories you can share with us at all about, anybody, your neighbors or anybody, talk about, things strange that was happening on their property, or, if you got that many acres, I mean, you're open for anything, bears, Bigfoot, rabbits even.
As far as Bigfoot stories, one, which is actually what led me to write the book series that I did, was on the base, and it took place, I believe, in 2013. A soldier had just been transferred here, and this is his report of it, or as close as I can remember. He was transferred here and hadn't been here very long, and they were doing morning PT on a specific trail, which is rather wooded. And he had made it to the back side of the track and had been hearing vocalizations and tree knocks and different things, and he kind of thought that it was other members of the group he was in kind of, messing with him a little bit because he was new. And as he proceeded to finish the trail, he started to come across rather large pine trees that were pushed down across it. And there had not been storms in the area, so there was really not a good reason as to why these trees were down. And he continued on and saw a couple had been moved out of the trail. So apparently the group ahead of him had come across these down trees and had moved them off the trail. And he finished the run for the morning and was with the group, and he didn't say anything because, he's new and he's thinking, why is all this stuff happening, And one of the soldiers who had been there for a while just popped off, well, looks like Bigfoot paid us a visit again this morning. And he just kind of looked at him like, that's what I was hearing.
Well, that would be kind of scary.
And this is on the Army base. And about 2 weeks after I had read that story, an alert popped up saying that particular trail was closed due to safety concerns after a black bear sighting. So instantly, in my head, I start laughing and saying, that's it, the Army's hiding Bigfoot. That's the book. They've got something on the base, and they escaped, and they're hiding it. So,
well, they're not going to sit there and panic the people, and say, hey, we think there was a a Bigfoot on, the base, because that would, that would scare a lot of people. Even soldiers, I'll tell you, like I said, I was in the military when I was young, and I tell you, it doesn't make me as brave as, as anybody else.
No, and there was another one on the base years prior to that. It was in the late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And, they were doing training maneuvers, and a soldier and his partner encountered a Bigfoot on the base, and it started throwing rocks at him and different things. And, so there's at least two where soldiers are willing to come forward and say, hey, there's something on here.
Well, that's like the same thing I always have heard, with my different guests I've had on here on Bigfoot and everything I've read, because I've done a lot of reading on Bigfoot, especially, since 2002, believe me. That's one thing they have a tendency of doing is throwing rocks. They also have a tendency of, pushing trees down and marking their territory.
Mm-hmm.
So, that would be one thing, I would be really concerned of. I had a guest on here about 2 weeks ago, and she has written a lot of books. And in her first marriage, her and her husband used to go out and do a lot of hiking, with friends and stuff like that. And she said she kind of walked away from the group as they were resting, and something was throwing rocks at her. And the next thing she said, she saw a Bigfoot, but she was too scared to go tell her husband, because her husband was so controlling, she said, that he would never have believed her. But, it opened up her mind. But she felt, again, that the Bigfoot that she saw was not going to be aggressive. It was just probably trying to scare her.
Mm-hmm. And with me, I am one that, because of my background, I want evidence. I want proof. So, I'm used to high stress. I'm used to seeing things that most people don't see. So I would hopefully think to, snap a picture of that, because I am used to the stress and the different things. See,
that's one thing I've had some people ask me on the show, since I, admitted that I saw a Bigfoot, and we had cameras, around our neck when that's what we were doing, taking pictures. And, the first thing they said, well, why didn't you get pictures? And I'll tell you something, I'm not that brave, but when you see something that's about 9-10 feet tall and looks like what they look like, and when it made that scream that it made, okay, it was enough. I'll be honest with you. I peed my pants. And I'll admit it now. That was a long time ago. But, just like my friend, he just got done doing his internship. He was a medical doctor. He just opened up a practice. He was just as scared as me. We just took off running like you wouldn't believe. No, I never thought about taking a picture. You know why? I thought about one thing: survival.
Exactly.
In my mind,
that's something that's something most people don't think about until they're in that, possibly life and death situation of, this thing's going to kill me if I don't get out of here. And your first instinct is to run, save your life, save your friend's life, get out of there.
I didn't even think about my friend, to be honest with you. I thought about one thing. I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. I'm sorry. It's just like a lot of people like, oh, why didn't you get a picture of a UFO? Why didn't you get that picture of this? Why didn't you get... Well, unless you're in that, and it's a lot of stress. And when you're into it, you don't think about that. You're all your mind does is go into the survival mode, okay? Now, maybe there's some people out there that wouldn't. They would grab their camera and start taking pictures, and maybe they'd find the camera laying out there in the woods, 10 years later. But I don't know. Do Bigfoot exist? I can honestly say, unless a bear had a head transplant and grew long arms and weird looking legs, they do exist. It's just too many. I saw one. I've talked to other people, and I had a guy that wanted to be on my show so bad. I mean, for a month, every day I would get a text or an email. You know, he claimed he was a Bigfoot hunter. And he said he's been doing it for 30 years. So finally, I talked to him, and I said, okay. And he started giving me all the statistics. And I said, okay, but where have you gone looking for one? And he goes, no, I have never went out and looked. I just do a lot of internet research. Well, that's not a Bigfoot hunter.
No, it's not. No.
And then that TV show was just canceled, you know, the one where they're going out trying to find Bigfoot, which, no offense, if you want to sue me out there, guys, who, if you're listening, I mean, how are you going to go find a Bigfoot if you got a TV crew going with lights, cameras, and you got like about 13 people following you around, find a Bigfoot making all that noise? It isn't going to happen.
No, it's not. And like I said, I've never gone out and looked for one. I don't want to go out and look for one. I feel that's just kind of tempting fate. And there are enough things out there to worry about without walking out there and trying to find something like that.
Well, you know, I have a lady that's going to be on next month. Again, she lives in Canada, and she lives, pretty much out. I think she said her closest neighbor was like 5 or 6 miles away from her cabin. But she said that, she was scared the first year or two because at night she would go in there and, watch her, videos or whatever she did in her cabin. And she was single. And all of a sudden she'd hear like rocks being thrown against the side of her house. And it would happen night after night after night. And then she started, because she had a garden, she would notice like some of her stuff was like tore out of the ground, gone, disappeared. And then she had chickens, and she was telling me that, all of a sudden some of the chickens would disappear. No blood or anything. They just were gone, And then she said that one day she was by her garage, and she said that one of them showed himself. And, she basically said that as long as she puts food out every day for him, out in front of her cabin, and gives him food every day, they don't throw rocks anymore. They don't harass her. She said, though, at night, like that sound I played of like Bigfoot, she says that she hears that quite often late at night. So, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen, where she lives. I haven't been through what she's gone through. I'm not saying she's a liar. I'm not saying she's not telling the truth. But I'll tell you one thing. If I was single and a woman, okay, living way out in the woods, and something was throwing rocks on the side of my house and, taking, my chickens and tearing up my garden and showed themselves to me, I tell you, I'd be gone like that other guy I was talking about. I'd get in my car, I'd start it, and I'd be gone. Who cares?
You know what, though? I'm kind of, my neighbors are closer than that, but I'm kind of in the same situation she's in. So, I think if she has an understanding with them and they don't seem to be a threat to her, I would probably do the same thing she's doing. I mean, I've got animals walking up. I just saw a fox walk across in front of my car about 15 minutes ago. So, it's like, okay.
Oh, and she did say, and I forgot to say it, she said occasionally they would give her trinkets of some sorts, some little gifts back. They would put it on her porch.
I have heard of stories like that before. I believe it was a woman in Kentucky who actually was talking about how her family and the family group of Bigfoot that live in the area have been working back and forth and working together for generations. And as I was listening to this, it was really interesting because they would come to her and specifically ask for things like garlic. they had learned to say the word garlic because